I'm going to show you something about the passport bro fantasy that will change how you hear every paradise pitch on YouTube, every montage of beaches, scooters, and smiling women, every DM that starts with handsome from someone who somehow found you the minute you landed, every friend who tells you, bro, just leave the West. It's different out there. And before anyone twists this into don't travel or all foreign women are scammers, let me be clear. Travel is good for men. New environments sharpen you. New cultures humble you. New experiences expand your options. The problem isn't the passport. The problem is the fantasy attached to it. Because I've watched the same story play out with men who were not stupid, not reckless, not naive. Men who looked me straight in the eye and said, I know what I'm doing. And then, 6 months later, they're calling from an airport with two bags, a drained account, and a voice that sounds like it aged 10 years overnight. There's a pattern running in certain places, a playbook, a system. It's been refined for decades because it works on the same pressure points in male psychology every time. Loneliness, pride, the desire to feel chosen, the hunger to feel respected again after years of being treated like an interchangeable wallet back home. And if you're north of 55, sitting on a retirement account, coming off a divorce, trying to rebuild your confidence while the apps feel like a cash register with profile pictures. Brother, there is a profile out there with your name already on it. Not because you're weak, because you're predictable, not in a bad way, in a human way. You want peace. You want admiration. You want a woman who looks at you like you matter. And the system knows it. So let me show you exactly what it looks like in real life, using stories that mirror what happens every day. Not to scare you out of traveling, to keep you from funding someone else's life with your last clean decade. Ethan was 55, Bay Area tech guy, 30 years writing code, slowly stacking his retirement, watching that account climb the way you watch a scoreboard after a long season of sacrifice. His marriage fell apart somewhere around year 12. The details don't matter. You know how it goes. Two people drifting, a slow coldness, a relationship that turns into logistics, eventually the papers. Ethan wasn't broke. He had a pension, some investments, a little equity, but he was exhausted. Not just from divorce, but from what dating felt like afterward. The apps were a marketplace, and he could feel it. Every conversation turned into interrogation. What do you do? Do you own? How much do you travel? Are you generous? Are you provider-minded? It felt like he had to pass a financial background check before he was allowed to be seen as a man. And after enough of that, something happens to you. You start thinking, what am I doing here? So when his buddy told him about Thailand, it hit him like oxygen. Different over there, his friend said. Your dollar goes further. Women are feminine. They appreciate you. They don't act like they're interviewing you. Ethan started researching, and that's when he met her. Her name was Sudha, 28, worked at a bar in Pattaya, and when Ethan walked in during a 2-week vacation, she lit up like he was the only man in the room. She laughed at his jokes, asked about his life like she actually cared. And here's the part that hooked him. She didn't lead with money, didn't ask what he did, didn't ask how much he made. She asked about him, his childhood, his hobbies, his favorite food. And if you've been invisible for long enough, that kind of attention feels like water. They talked for hours, for the first time in years. Ethan felt like someone saw him. Not his bank account, not his house, not his retirement plan. Him. He flew back to California, but they stayed in touch. WhatsApp calls every morning. Good morning, handsome. Photos of her cooking, videos of her laughing, little messages at night. wish you were here. And Ethan didn't interpret it as strategy. He interpreted it as relief. Finally, a woman who isn't complicated, a woman who isn't bitter, a woman who doesn't treat him like a resource. After 6 months of this, Ethan made the decision that costs men more than any plane ticket. He decided the fantasy was real. I'm moving to Thailand. His kids told him he was insane. His friends said, at least test it. Rent first. Don't sell everything. Go for a season. But Ethan didn't want caution. He wanted certainty. Because for once in his life, he felt like he knew exactly what he was doing. So he sold his house, cashed out a big chunk of his retirement, $180,000 liquid, quit his job, bought a one-way ticket, posted on Facebook about starting his new life with a woman who actually appreciated him. The first 2 months were everything he dreamed about. Apartment together, meals together, trips to islands that looked like computer wallpapers. He dropped weight, started learning Thai. Every FaceTime with his buddies back home looked like a victory lap. Then month 3 hit, and that's when the first request arrived. My mother is very sick, she said. She needs medicine. It's $800. Ethan sent it immediately, because that's what a good man does, right? A woman you love has a family emergency. You step up. Month 4, she came to him with tears. I've been thinking about our future. What if we build something together? A bar, a business, something that's ours. Her family would help manage it. It would only take $50,000 to get started. Ethan hesitated for about 5 seconds. Then he wired the money because she kissed him, because she told him he made her feel safe, because she looked at him like he was her hero. Month 5, her behavior shifted. She started disappearing, shopping with friends, visiting family up country, not answering calls for hours, coming home with stories that sounded a little too polished, a little too rehearsed. Month 6, Ethan did something men do right before the illusion collapses. He showed up unannounced. He went to the bar they were supposedly building. It wasn't their bar. It was her ex-boyfriend's place. And when Ethan walked in, she was standing there with another man, holding keys to a car Ethan bought her 3 weeks earlier. She didn't cry. She didn't apologize. She didn't even look guilty. She looked confused, like the machine was malfunctioning. What are you doing here? She asked. That was the moment Ethan understood the one truth that ends the fantasy. He wasn't her boyfriend. He was a revenue stream, a second income lane. And the lane had started to dry up. Ethan is back in California now, living in a spare bedroom at his brother's house, trying to explain to his kids how he lost over $100,000 in half a year to a woman who never loved him. She loved what he could provide, until he couldn't. And here's what I need you to understand about Ethan. He's not uniquely gullible. He's every man who felt invisible and then finally felt chosen. That hunger is human. That hunger is also exploitable. There are 3 major traps that catch men like Ethan. Once you see them, you will recognize them everywhere. In your DMs, in your friend's new girlfriend, in every story that ends with a man standing at an airport counter asking how much for a ticket home. Trap 1 is the visa trap. This is the piece no influencer sells you because it kills the fantasy. Most of those I moved to paradise guys are not residents. They are permanent tourists. They are living on borrowed time. Your visa expires every 30 to 90 days, depending on the country. That means you are not building a life. You are visiting, and that permission can be revoked without warning. That's why you see men doing Vaza runs, flying out to a neighboring country for a weekend just to get a new stamp, doing paperwork, paying fees, repeating the cycle at 60 years old, at 65, at 70, like a bureaucratic yo-yo. Now you might think, I'll get a retirement visa. Good. Let's talk reality. In Thailand, you may need a chunk of money sitting in a local bank, sometimes locked, plus proof of income, plus mandatory insurance. In the Philippines, there are deposit programs and fees and renewals depending on the visa route. Vietnam doesn't even have a straightforward retirement visa in the way men imagine, which pushes you back into tourist loops or sponsor dependencies. And here is the hidden danger inside the visa trap. The more you need a local solution to stay, the more leverage you hand to the person closest to you. If your ability to exist in the country quietly depends on your relationship is no longer just emotional, it's structural. It becomes a power imbalance. One paperwork problem, one missed deadline, one official having a bad day, and you can be deported, banned, or forced out fast. And if you built anything in her name, because foreigners can't own land in many of these places, that life you built can disappear in a week. You flew 8,000 miles to escape feeling trapped, and you landed in a place where you need permission just to remain. Trap 2 is the village trap. This is where men misunderstand what they're marrying into. In certain cultures, you don't marry the woman. You marry her obligations. You don't get a partner. You inherit a network. And that network sees you as a resource the moment you become family. Graham was 65, retired out of Florida, met a woman online from rural Vietnam. Her name was Lien. Sweet, traditional, talked about family values and loyalty. Everything he felt he wasn't finding back home. Graham sent $15,000 to help her family's farm before he even visited. That should tell you something already. He flew over after 4 months of calls, proposed within 2 weeks because it felt simple. It felt pure. It felt like a second chance. He bought land in her name for $40,000 because foreigners can't own property. Moved to her village thinking he'd found the simple life. Then the requests started coming like a subscription he never signed up for. Mom needs surgery. Brother needs a motorcycle for work. Cousin is starting a business. The parents need a house upgrade. Sister's kid needs school fees. And here's what men don't understand. Not all of those requests are fake. Some are real. That's what makes it so powerful. Because you can't easily call it a scam when it's wrapped in family duty. But the requests don't stop. They expand. $2,000 a month. Every month. Like he wasn't her husband. Like he was the village's ATM with a heartbeat and a pension. One day, Graham overheard her on the phone speaking Vietnamese. He didn't understand most of it, but he caught a phrase in English clear as day. The old American will pay. That's when the illusion snapped. He didn't adopt a wife. He adopted a municipality. He was funding a small government. Graham is back in Miami now, down 70,000, posting warnings online, trying to explain something men don't learn until it's too late. In America, when a gold digger targets you, it's usually one person. In certain places, you're dealing with a whole system, a family tree, generational need. And once you're labeled a resource, saying no doesn't just disappoint one person. It disappoints everyone. Trap 3 is the patience trap. This is the one that catches smart men, careful men, men who think experience makes them immune. Because unlike the obvious, expensive woman back home who demands designer bags on the second date, this strategy is slow. It is disciplined. It is long game. Victor was 62, retired out of Houston, met a woman on a dating site for the Philippines. Her name was Karina. She was 35, and Victor did what men call doing it right. A full year of calls and messages before he even visited. He wasn't impulsive. He wasn't desperate. He thought he was being smart. He flew over. They got married within 2 months. He bought a house in Cebu for 80,000. Had to put it in her name because that's the law. At first, everything was perfect. Her family moved in temporarily to help. She was attentive, sweet, consistent. Then the loans started. 5,000 a month for family debts that never seemed to shrink. Emergencies that happened with suspicious regularity. And every time Victor questioned it, she cried and said the same sentence men always fall for. I thought you loved me. I thought we were family. And this is where the patience trap is genius, because by the time the money asks begin, you're already invested. You're emotionally bonded. You've posted her. You've told your friends. You've made it part of your identity. So the request doesn't feel like extraction. It feels like loyalty. It feels like duty. Men always say the same thing. But she waited so long to ask for anything. She must be real. No, that waiting is the trap. That's the system. And here's what Victor found on her phone that made his blood stop. One night he picked it up to check the time and saw a message from a guy saved as Rafi. It said, "When the old man dies, we split everything. Just be patient." That's not romance. That's an investment plan, a maturity date. Victor lost 150,000 before he got out, fought for the house, lost most of it. He's back in Houston now, in therapy, trying to process the most humiliating truth a man can swallow. He wasn't her husband. He was her mark. Now let's talk about the math that nobody puts in the thumbnail, because the passport bro content loves to sell you this line. You can live like a king on $800 a month. Technically, maybe, if you want to live like a 22-year-old backpacker forever. Concrete box, no AC, heat you can't escape, street food every meal, buses and scooters when your knees don't cooperate. But you're not 22. You want comfort, you want safety, you want reliable internet, you want air conditioning that works, you want a neighborhood where you can walk at night without wondering. You want medical access that doesn't feel like gambling. You want Western food sometimes because your body isn't built for rice and fish heads 3 times a day. Realistic numbers from men living there with adult standards look more like this. Thailand, say $500 to $2,500 a month if you want to live like a normal human being, not a survivalist. Philippines, $900 to $2,000. Vietnam, roughly $1,000 to $1,800 depending on the city and your lifestyle. And those numbers rise over time. Inflation does not stop because you crossed an ocean. So here's the math that changes everything. Maybe you saved $400 a month on rent, but now you're spending that $400 on her brother's motorcycle, her mother's medicine, her cousin's business idea. You didn't escape costs. You changed the category. And now we have to talk about the big one, property, because this is where men destroy themselves with one signature. Foreigners cannot easily own land in Thailand, the Philippines, or Vietnam. There are complicated structures in some places, long-term leases, condos under specific rules, corporate frameworks, but for the average guy following the just do it advice, the reality is simple. If you buy a home, it's usually not in your name. It's in hers. And every form will tell you the same dangerous sentence. Just put it in her name. Everybody does it. Everybody doing it doesn't make it smart. It means a lot of men are repeating the same mistake. Cole was from Chicago, built a $90,000 condo in Bangkok, put it in his girlfriend's name because he had to. A year later, he saw her at a bar with another expat, laughing, holding hands. He confronted her. She didn't cry, didn't apologize, didn't even look embarrassed. She laughed and said, "You're just one of many." Cole lost the condo, all 90,000, and you know what she's doing now? Renting it to another retiree who probably thinks he's different, that his story is special, that she really loves him this time. That condo has a better dating life than most guys on Tinder. Think about what you're doing when you build a house in someone else's name. You are placing a six-figure asset into the hands of a person you have known less time than it takes to lease a car, and you are calling it love. Once you see these patterns, you'll recognize them everywhere. In your DMs right now, in your buddy's perfect girlfriend, in every story that ends with a man sitting in an airport with nothing. Here are the early signs before you even get on the plane. 1. She found you first. She initiated. She pursued. And look, it can happen, but ask yourself honestly, when was the last time a 28-year-old pursued you first, back home with zero context? 2. Love bombing early. You're different. I've never felt this. I think about you all the time. And she's saying this before she's lived one real day with you, before she knows your habits, before she's seen you stressed, before she's seen you sick. That's not love. That's a sales pitch. 3. Money. Requests before you meet. There's always an emergency. Mom is sick. Brother needs help. A document fee. A job problem. And the amount is always just small enough that you can rationalize it. 500, 800, 1,000. You send it once and you just taught her the system works. 4. Her family enters the relationship immediately. Before you've met her, you're already hearing about her mother's health, her brother's work, her sister's kid, school fees. You're not her boyfriend. You're her family's financial advisor. 5. Pressure to commit fast. Marriage talk within 6 months. Moving in after 3. Building a future before you've even had a real fight. And if you suggest slowing down, she cries, "Don't you love me?" That pressure is the tell. 6. Her entire friend group dates foreigners. Every woman around her has a Western man. They all met the same way. That is not coincidence. That is a social network built around a business model. 7. Her ex was foreign too. Ask about the last relationship. If it was American, British, Australian, and ended in the same pattern, you are not special. You are next in line. Now let's say you ignore all that and you go. What are the signs once you arrive that the machine has started? Lifestyle upgrade, day 1. New phone, new clothes, nicer restaurants where she orders like she's never seen a menu before. And she tells you, "You make me so happy," while your wallet bleeds. Monthly family emergencies. Someone always needs something. Every month there's a crisis requiring cash. Different story, same result. A number that stays just under what you'd consider a deal breaker. That consistency is the pattern. Property, pressure. Let's build a house. Let's buy a condo. Let's invest in my family's business. Always in her name. Always justified as how it works here. Isolation. She doesn't want you around. Other expats. She gets upset when you talk to foreigners. She calls them bitter, jealous, toxic. Because the longer you're around experienced men, the faster you'll recognize the playbook. And the biggest tell of all, she gets angry when you say no. Not sad, not disappointed, angry. Like you violated a contract she never told you existed. That anger is the mask slipping because now it's not romance. It's entitlement. Now, I'm not telling you not to travel. Travel, explore, meet people, see the world. I'm telling you to stop becoming the guy men warn about in forums after it's too late. So here are the rules, organized so you actually remember them. Travel rules. Visit for 3 months before you move, not 2 weeks. Not a honeymoon visit. 3 months. Long enough for the novelty to die. Long enough to experience bureaucracy when you need something simple. Long enough to feel the heat when it's brutally humid. Long enough to see how you feel when it's not vacation anymore. Get real international health insurance, not optimism, coverage. Because one emergency without insurance can cost more than 10 years of premiums. And keep go home money sacred. Flight home plus 3 months of living expenses untouched, no exceptions. That is your ejection seat. You do not give away your ejection seat. Money rules. Rent. Never buy. No land. No building a house. No investment condo in her name. No matter how long you've known her, you rent and keep your money liquid. Because liquidity equals freedom. And freedom is what you came for. Keep finances separate. No joint accounts. No bank access. No shared assets. If she pushes back hard on financial separation, you just learned why she's there. Relationship rules. Minimum 6 months before any major decision. No marriage. No sponsoring her back home. No property. No, we should invest together. 6 months minimum, and honestly, a year is better. Do a background check if possible and meet the family for real, not a staged dinner. Go to her hometown. See how she lives. Watch how she acts around people who've known her for years. Stay connected. Join expat communities. Talk to men who've been there 5 years or more. When experienced men tell you something feels off, you listen. Not because they're bitter, because they've watched your situation play out 50 times and keep weekly check-ins with family back home. Tell someone your address, your routine, your plan, because isolation is how these things go from bad to worse without anyone noticing until you're already broke. Paradise is great. Just don't fund someone else's paradise with your retirement while calling it love. Now let's talk about why men fall for this. Because if we don't address that, you'll think this is just be careful. It's deeper than that. American dating can feel like a second job you didn't apply for. The entitlement is real. The games are exhausting. You're jumping through hoops to get coffee with someone who already seems halfway out the door. So the urge to leave is valid. The frustration is real. But running away from something and starting over are not the same thing. One is fear. The other is freedom. And if you can't tell the difference, you are about to make an expensive mistake. Travel because you want to experience the world, not because you want to buy affection. Meet women abroad if you want, but go with your eyes open, not with your heart on your sleeve and your wallet on the table. Because the most dangerous man in this situation is not the broke guy, it's the lonely guy. Lonely men make sloppy decisions. Because when you've been invisible for long enough, anyone who sees you feels like a miracle. I get it. We've all been there in some form. Maybe not 8,000 miles away, but we've all made choices based on wanting to be wanted, on wanting to matter. There's nothing weak about that. It's human. We all want connection that feels real, respect that isn't transactional, a woman who sees you as a man, not as a retirement plan with a pulse. Wanting that doesn't make you pathetic. But here's the truth you need to accept, and I mean really accept it. The trap isn't Thailand. It isn't the Philippines. It isn't Vietnam. Those are locations. The trap is the belief that you are the exception, that your situation is different, that she's not like the others, that you cracked the code. You are not the exception. Neither am I. No man is. That's not an insult. That's math. And the faster you accept it, the less it costs you. You spent 40 years building that retirement, working jobs you didn't love, missing time with your kids, carrying stress so you could have security when you got older. Don't throw it away in 40 weeks because loneliness made you reckless. Protect yourself the way you'd protect your brother. Because that's what we are. Men navigating a world that changed while we weren't looking, trying to find connection in a culture that turned dating into a transaction. So if you know a man thinking about doing this, send him this. Not to shame him, not to scare him, to arm him. Because the people running these games count on silence. They count on shame. They count on men being too embarrassed to admit they got played. Every time a man stays quiet, the next man falls easier. Don't give them that. Eyes open. Travel smart. Love if it's real. But don't confuse attention with loyalty. And don't confuse paradise with safety. The world is full of traps. You don't have to step in everyone just because it looks like the escape you've been dreaming about. See you in the next one.